Alright, everyone, welcome to the Odyssey by Homer. This translation, originally a Greek poem, this translation by Tony Klein. Book 4. Odysseus tells his tale, the Cyclops' cave. Looking across the land of neighboring Cyclopses, we could see smoke and hear their voices, and the sound of their sheep and goats. Sunset and the darkness fell, and we settled to our rest on the shore. As soon as the rosy-fingered dawn appeared, I gathered my men together, saying, "The rest of you loyal friends stay here, while I and my crew take ship and try to find out who these men are, whether they are cruel, savage, and lawless, or good to strangers, and in their hearts fear the gods." With this, I went abroad and ordered my crew to follow and loose the cables. They boarded swiftly and took their place on the benches, then sitting in their rows, struck the gray water with their oars. When we had reached the nearby shore, we saw a deep cave overhung with laurels at the cliff's edge close to the sea. Large herds of sheep and goats were pinned there at night, and round it was a raised yard walled by deep-set stones, tall pines, and high-crowned oaks. There a giant spent the night. One that grazed his herds off far alone, and keeping clear of others, lived in lawless solitude. He was born a monster and a wonder, not like any ordinary human, but like some wooded peak of high mountains that stands there isolated to our gaze. Odysseus tells his tale. Polymetheus returns. Then I ordered the rest of my loyal friends to stay there and guard the ship, while I selected the 12 best men and went forward. I took with me a goat skin filled with dark sweet wine that Marin, son of Euthenus, priest of Apollo, guardian of god Ismarus, had given me, because out of respect we protected him, his wife, and child. He offered me splendid gifts, 7 talents of well-wrought gold, and a silver mixing bowl and wine, 12 jars in all, sweet, unmixed wine, a divine draught. None of his serving men and maids knew of this store, only he and his loyal wife and one housekeeper. When they drank that honeyed red wine, he would pour a full cup into 20 of water, and the bouquet that rose from the mixing bowl was wonderfully sweet. In truth, no one could hold back. I filled a large goat skin with the wine, and took it along, with some food in a bag, since my instincts told me the giant would come at us quickly, a savage being with huge strength, knowing nothing of right or law. Soon we came to the cave, and found him absent. He was grazing his well-fed flocks in the field. So we went inside and marveled at its contents. There were baskets full of cheeses, and pens crowded with lambs and kids, each flock with its firstlings, later ones and newborns separated. The pails and bowls for milking, all solidly made, were swimming with whey. At first my men begged me to take some cheeses and go, and then drive the lambs and kids from the pen down to the swift ship and set sail. But I would not listen, though it would have been best, wishing to see the giant himself and test his hospitality. When he did appear, he proved no joy to my men. So we lit a fire and made an offering, and helped ourselves to the cheese, and sat in the cave eating, waiting for him to return, shepherding his flocks. He arrived bearing a huge weight of dry wool to burn at supper time, and he flung it down inside the cave with a crash. Gripped with terror, we shrank back into a deep corner. He drove his well-fed flocks into the wide cave, the ones he milked, leaving the rams and he-goats outside in the broad courtyard. Then he lifted his door, a huge door, and set it in place, a huge stone, and set it in place. 22 four-wheeled wagons could not have carried it, yet such was the great rocky mass he used for a door. Then he sat and milked the ewes, bleating goats in order, putting her young next to each other, putting her young to each. Next, he curdled half the white milk and stored the whey in wicker baskets, leaving the rest in pails for him to drink for his supper. When he had busied himself at his task and kindled a fire, he suddenly saw us and said, "Strangers, who are you? Where do you sail from over the sea roads? Are you on business, or do you roam at random like pirates who chance their lives to bring evil to others?" Odysseus tells his tale, trapped. Our spirits fell at his words, in terror at his loud voice and monstrous size. Nevertheless, I answered him, saying, "We are Achaeans, returning from Troy, driven over the ocean depths by every wind that blows. Heading for home, we were forced to take another route, a different course, as Zeus, I suppose, intended. We are followers of Agamemnon, Atreus' son, whose fame spreads widest on earth, so great that the city he sacked and the host he slew. But we, for our part, come a suppliant at your knees, hoping for hospitality and the kindness that is due to strangers. Good sir, do not refuse us. Respect the gods. We are suppliants, and Zeus protects visitors and suppliants. Zeus, the god of guests who follows the steps of sacred travelers." His answer was devoid of pity. "Stranger, you are a foreigner or a fool, telling me to fear and revere the gods, since the Cyclopses care nothing for Aegeus-bearing Zeus. We are greater than they. I would spare neither you nor your friends to evade Zeus's anger, but only as my own heart prompted. But tell me now, where are your moored fine ship when you landed? Was it somewhere nearby or further off? I'd like to know." His words were designed to fool me, but failed. I was too wise for that, and answered him with cunning words. "Poseidon, Earthshaker, smashed my ship to pieces, wrecking her on the rocks that edge your island, driving her close to the headland so that the wind threw her on shore. But I and my men escaped destruction." Devoid of pity, he was silent in response, but leaping up laid hands on my crew. He seized two he seized, and dashed to the ground like whelps, and their brains ran out and stained the earth. He tore them limb from limb for his supper, eating the flesh and the entrails, bone and marrow, like a mountain lion, leaving nothing. Helplessly we watched these cruel acts, raising our hands to heaven and weeping. When the Cyclops had filled his huge stomach with human flesh and drunk pure milk, he lay down in the cave, stretched out among his flocks, and I formed a courageous plan to steal up to him, draw my sharp sword, and feeling for the place where the midriff supports the liver, stab him there. But the next thought checked me. Trapped in a cave, we would certainly die, since we have no way to move the great stone from the wide entrance. So sighing, we waited for the day. Odysseus tells his tale, offering the Cyclops wine. As soon as rose-fingered dawn appeared, Cyclops relit the fire. Then he milked the ewes, bleating goats in order, putting her young to each. When he busied himself with his tasks, he again seized two of my men and began to eat them. When he finished, he drove his well-fed flocks from the cave, effortlessly lifting the huge door-stone and replacing it again like a cap on a quiver. Then whistling loudly, he turned his flocks out on the mountain slopes, leaving me with murder in my heart, searching for a way to take vengeance on him. If Athene would grant me inspiration, the best plan seemed to be this. Cyclops' huge club, a trunk of green olive wood he had cut to take with him as soon as it was seasoned, lay next to a sheep pen. It was so large and thick that it looked to us like the mast of a 20-oared black ship, a broad-beam merchant vessel that sails the deep ocean. Approaching it, I cut off a 6-foot length, gave it to my men, and told them to smooth the wood. Then, standing by it, I sharpened the end to a point, hardened the point in the blazing fire. After which I hid it carefully in one of the heaps of dung that lay around the cave. I urged the men to cast lots as to which of them should dare to help me raise the stake, and twist it into the Cyclops' eye, when the sweet sleep took him. The lot fell on the very ones I would have chosen, 4 of them, with myself making a 5th. He returned that evening, shepherding his well-fed flocks. He herded them swiftly, every one into the deep cave, leaving nothing in the broad yard, commanded to do so by a god or because of some premonition. Then he lifted the huge door-stone and set it in place, and sat down to milk the ewes and bleating goats in order, putting her young to each. But when he began, he had busied himself at his task. He again seized 2 of my men and began to eat them. That was when I went up to him, holding an ivory wood bowl full of dark wine, and said, "Here, Cyclops, have some wine to follow your meal of human flesh, so that you can taste the sort of drink we carried in our ship. I was bringing the drink to you as a gift, hoping you might pity me and help me on my homeward path. But your savagery is past bearing, cruel man. Why would anyone on earth ever visit you again when you behave so badly?" At this, he took the cup and drained it, and found the sweet drink so delightful he asked for another draught. "Give me more freely, and quickly tell me your name, so that I may give you a guest gift, one that will please you." "Among us Cyclopses, the fertile earth produces rich grape clusters, and Zeus's rain swells them. But this is a taste from a stream of ambrosia and nectar." Blinding the Cyclops. As he finished speaking, I handed him the bright wine. 3 times I poured and gave it to him, and 3 times foolishly he drained it. When the wine fuddled his wits, I tried him with subtle words. "Cyclops, you ask my name, and I will tell it. Give me afterwards a guest gift as you promised. My name is Nobody. Nobody my father, mother, and friends call me." Those were my words, and this his cruel answer. "Then, my gift is this. I will eat Nobody, last of all his company, and all the others before him." As he spoke, he reeled and toppled over on his back, his thick neck twisted to one side, and all-conquering sleep overpowered him. In his drunken slumber he vomited wine and pieces of human flesh. Then I thrust the stake into the depth of ashes to heat it, and inspired my men with encouraging words, so none would hang back from fear. When the olive wood stake was glowing hot and ready to catch fire despite its greenness, I drew it from the coals. Then my men stood around me, and God breathed courage into us. We held the sharpened olive wood stake and thrust it into his eye, while I threw my weight on the end and twisted it round and round, as a man bores the timbers of a ship with a drill that others twirl lower down, with the strap held at both ends. And so, to keep the drill continuously moving, we took the red-hot stake and twisted it round and round like that in his eye, and the blood poured out despite the heat. His lips and brows were scorched by flame from the burning eyeball, and its roots cackled with fire. As a great axe or adze causing a vast hissing when the smith dips it in cool water to temper it, strengthening the iron, so his eye hissed against the olive wood stake. Then he screamed terribly, and the rock echoed. Seized by terror, we shrank back. As he wrenched the stake, wet with blood from his eye, he flung it away in a frenzy, and called to the Cyclopses, his neighbors, who lived in caves on the windy heights. They heard his cry, and crowding in from every side, they stood by the cave mouth, and asked what was wrong. "Prometheus, what terrible pain is this that makes you call through deathless night and wake us? Is it mortal stealing your flocks, or trying to kill you by violence or treachery?" Out of the cave came mighty Prometheus' voice. "Nobody, my friends, is trying to kill me by violence or treachery." To this they replied with winged words. "If you are alone and nobody does you violence, it is inescapable sickness that comes from Zeus. Pray to the Lord Poseidon, our father." Escape. Off they went, while I laughed to myself at how the name and the clever scheme had deceived him. Meanwhile the Cyclopses, groaning and in pain, groped around and labored to lift the stone from the door. Then he sat in the entrance, arms outstretched, to catch anyone stealing past among his sheep. That was how foolish he must have thought I was. I considered the best way of escaping and saving myself and my men from death. I dreamed up all sorts of tricks and schemes, as a man will in a life or death matter. It was an evil situation. That was the plan that seemed best. The rams were fat with thick fleeces, fine large beasts, and deep black wool. These I silently tied in threes, with twists of willow on which the lawless monster Prometheus slept. Then the middle one was to carry one of my men, with the other 2 on either side to protect him. So there was a man to every 3 sheep. As for me, I took the pick of the flock, and curled below his shaggy belly, gripped his back, and lay there, face upwards, patiently gripped his fine fleece tight in my hands, and sighing, we waited for light.